Hooray! Oh, well, welcome to the April 2016 Omaha Linux User Group. And the rest of the crew walks in the room. Come on in, Safari Joe.
See, that's what he's been talking about the whole time down there.
Sorry, Joe. Sorry, late, Aaron. You sorry about that? We're not sorry.
I'm not sorry. I do what I did to plus
I just started recording, actually. I gave you until 6:40.
Went down. Was that a title company?
Yes, it was. Yep. So, several things have happened. The Microsoft Build Conference last week. Microsoft announced Bash for Windows 10 through an agreement with Canonical and Ubuntu. So the entire Ubuntu user space will now be inside Windows 10.
X Windows?
Nope.
Just shell, okay.
Yep. Just so developers can work on it.
So the idea is, correct me if I'm wrong, difference from this versus something like Sigma is that we're assuming that because this is a partnership with Microsoft, they have access to some APIs, some lower level syscalls.
They're doing a conversion between the Linux and Windows syscalls.
It's the inverse of wine.
That's the best way to compare it.
Okay.
It actually
thinking that sounded like.
you can get Ubuntu stuff as long as it doesn't use the X11 stuff. You can actually run it.
It's like anti-wine.
That's
Yeah.
really interesting.
It is. There's been some other
You
projects.
call that vinegar.
Well, there was Coherent. There was Coherent Linux for a while, which ran the Linux kernel on as a Windows NT service, which provides some of the same stuff. But these guys, I mean, they haven't been back to Ubuntu and Microsoft's connection. But you have to have Windows 10 one later previews of it. You have to also go to the Windows Store to get it. It's kind of a pain in the butt because I hate the Windows Store and it hates me. So
That's not surprising. That's a distribution channel for them.
There's an easier way to get Bash.
Sigma, yeah.
No, run Linux.
What did you say? Embrace, extend, and
Extinguish.
extinguish.
So this is how they do web standards.
It took them a little bit longer.
Linux is their target. I think Oracle is their target.
Huh. SQL Server on Linux is going to be very interesting.
You can take my chair.
That's true. That was announced relatively recently.
Yeah, but they're trying to figure out what exactly is going to be released.
I'll get some more chairs next door.
Two of the
So,
most
yeah, we need to separate this.
arcane license scheme to.
Thanks, Craig. So, this month is going to be an extension of our February meeting, which didn't happen due to weather. So Aaron got moved to April, and we're going to talk about, or he's going to talk about, Let's Encrypt. So, take it away, Aaron.
Give it a signing for
Okay, sounds working.
You can do that at InstallFest.
Those were the days.
Those are fun days. Now, the success ratio tended to vary a lot. How
That's true.
erratic
It
our
was still fun.
What is that? I've never
Rich,
seen one of those
dusty, crufty machine is going to be carving through the door.
Or Scott Miller bringing his water cool system and it started leaking, and that was always a nice touch. It started bubbling. It's like, that's not good. So, my topic is Let's Encrypt HTTPS everywhere. So, right now, what does it take to get an SSL protected site? The usual way, you need to generate a certificate signing request. You send off the thoughts, Komodo, VeriSign, etc. Pay them money for it. The money can vary quite a bit depending on which one it is. You take the resulting signed response and import it into your web server, and you repeat the process every year or two forever. It's a tremendous way of making money if you're a certificate authority. That's actually how Ubuntu got started, was because Thought with Shuttleworth, he actually was doing certificates for Apache way back when, for anyone else was willing to do it for Apache. That's largely how he got to be worth the point where everyone spent the money they did to buy his company and stuff like that. But that's how it does to get it. That's how a usual company does and stuff like that. You can also generate your own self-signed certificate, which is pretty easy to do. But every time you do it, your user gets an error message. Like it's a warning message, which no links.
So there's a list of sort of auto-approved or auto-trusted signing authorities.
Yes, every web browser has some in there. There's
There's a
VeriSign,
pretty static list.
It is, but it also goes up and down. There have been threats of people. Debian's threatened to remove a lot of CAs over time, stuff like that. Because one of the things, if your company intercepts your SSL traffic at the firewall or whatever, they'll generate a new certificate on the fly, and they'll use that to be able to intercept and do a man in the middle on your stuff, as well as do analysis and stuff like that. A lot of companies, not around town, do, but a lot of companies do that type of stuff because they want to get additional information about people. Well, you figure if you're doing stock information, that kind of stuff, you want to make sure nothing's going on that shouldn't be going out. And that's the way to really be able to monitor stuff like that.
We do that to keep our clients from hiding their traffic.
Yeah. So they got to go back to the old drive stuff.
So anybody that does deep-packet inspection probably has the option to do man-in-the-middle type SSL.
They do, but they can do it one of two ways. Either they can install the a CA on your machine, which is how most of them do, and they just install it in the regular distributions from LANDesk or SUS or whatever utility they use for that. Or they can actually, there's supposed to be certain special exemptions that let people around some of this stuff, but no one really knows what they are. They're not well defined. That's one of the reasons why if you go out and you use different web browsers and your company's approved web browser, like let's say your company is based around Chrome and you use Firefox, and if you were to go out and get, let's say, portable anywhere Firefox and that kind of stuff, you can actually put a little wrench in their plan and stuff like that. So that's always a good thing to be aware of.
Is there a big difference between the list of auto-trusted CAs between the major browsers, Safari, IE, Chrome, Firefox? Or
There is
pretty
actually.
much the same?
Chrome accepts a couple of the other ones don't, and there's a couple of brands. Example being, actually, if you hit the OLUG mailing list, that's protected by a certificate authority called StartCom, which is another one we'll talk about a little further on, because they're also another free one. They're accepted by Chrome, but they're not accepted by Firefox or a couple other ones.
Okay.
So depending on who you hit the mailing list from for OLUG, you'll either get a warning or not get a warning.
And they're one of the free ones, you said?
Yeah.
So there are some free ones that are in the trusted list?
There's 3 free ones out there. There's
Okay.
a couple of free ones out there right now. But the most popular one, the one that really is interesting is Let's Encrypt, because Let's Encrypt is accepted by all the major browsers. Even Opera. So that's got to be good.
That's still a thing.
Opera still is. Opera actually is just recently been bought. There's a new offshoot of the Vivaldi guys who are doing a Chrome-based one. There's a Brave browser, which is being done by Brandon Ike from Mozilla, who's doing his own, which actually uses bitcoins to pay you for watching ads and stuff like that. It's an entire interesting thing. So getting an SSL protected site can be a bit of a pain in the ass, what it comes down to. And Let's Encrypt fixes that. So to do an SSL protected website with the Let's Encrypt, you install the software from the Let's Encrypt website, the client-side software. All the client-side software is written inside Python. There are other implementations of it being written as well in C, Ruby, all that kind of stuff. The actual server is written in a language called Go, which is once sponsored by Google, which is quite popular and stuff like that. And they're actually, this is all an open published standard called the ACME standard, which is the Automated Certificate Management Environment. That's actually being proposed to an RFC, and that's kind of a cool thing. So why does this matter? Because it removes the monetary and most of the technical issues that prevent a lot of websites from going secure. If you're running just a little regular website, that can actually be a monetary type of thing. If you look at the number of them, the time, the effort, all that kind of stuff, a lot of people do not want to do that. It adds complexity to it. And that's bad. Because any website you connect to via HTTP is vulnerable to being intercepted and modified. It's the classic man-in-the-middle attack. An example being this, I've got one later on called for mathletes, but Ubuntu also has this problem with forums. The passwords were not being protected by that, so they're actually intercepted. And you think about it, well, all someone can do is modify stuff in transit. Well, all you have to do is make a couple minor changes instead of saying, oh, touch, say RM, certain files and stuff like that. And you can do this without it being a huge deal, and you can actually cause people to pretty much bork their systems if you do it correctly, do all that kind of stuff with it. So it's a real bad thing. Yeah, so you have a higher chance that you're talking to websites than you think you are. So if you're going HTTPS, it's less likely to be a man-in-the-middle attack on it. But also the fact that the content can be modified, ads can be injected, cookies can be injected, all this kind of stuff can happen is really bad. You make it more difficult for others to eavesdrop on your transmissions for marketing or other purposes. The big one being inserting ads in stream, because there's been the super cookies and stuff like that from Verizon, which not really a happy time for a lot of people. But they agreed to not do it anymore once you opt out, which they really haven't published all that well yet. So being SSL is good. And that's the way things are going. Because there's no reason that you should be doing all this stuff over the open. Privacy was on the last slide, but it bears repeating. It makes it harder for people's companies, governments to listen in and see what you are doing researching. Example being, if you do some sort of research on something like alcohol addiction at work, is there somebody who is going to be able to put that together? If you start looking at how much Google knows about you, or this company that's working, or that company knows about you, in terms of targeted ads, all this kind of stuff, it can be just frightening. All you have to do is put a phrase in there, it's something like, let's say, you put, I'm trying to go with a decent phrase, but there's something about high blood pressure medicine there. Also, you'll start seeing a lot of your ads start coming along these lines on different sites now, because they're all connected, they're all sharing that information. By doing this, you make it a little harder. Even with do not track, stuff like that, it still goes back to the certain things. But it does make it more expensive for companies to aggregate data about you, which is a huge source of information about. That's how the companies, a lot of them survive and stuff like that. But here's an example of a group that wasn't using HTTPS. Mathletics, e-learning site used by millions of people. It didn't use SSL and was vulnerable to snooping. SAT is now moving to SSL to provide increased security. Very bad for a site holding information for children. The summary of this is, if you ask somebody for a username and password and you're not an HTTPS protected site, you're part of the problem. At best, you're part of the problem. At worst, you're an asshole. Because no one should be asking you for that information without being encrypted. Because there's really, the barriers to it are really dropping. There is an overhead in terms of encryption. It does take additional CPU cycles. That is really kind of falling off now. Very few people have so many are so CPU bound they can't handle it.
It does, but who cares?
Yeah, it's going to be part of the price you pay. So let's do a demo. So I have a site set up right now, gpgschool.org, which has SSL installed for the self-signed certificate. It does not have a CA signed certificate on right now. So let's pop out to that.
Right.
Yes.
I'm sorry, will you say that again? It has what installed?
It has a self-signed certificate.
Oh, it's self-signed. All right, so you went through the whole
So it is doing
SSL
HTTPS.
thing, but it's just that
Yeah.
your browser will bitch. Okay.
Yeah. So what you get is of course, the classic.
Is it com or org? Your site's at org.
I've got org, .com, and .net, all three of them. Right now, I've got to just point to a DigitalOcean environment because I had $10 worth of credits that were expiring this month, so I was like, probably time to set this up. But GPG School is actually going to be something I'm going to be working on here to give it a quick plug. The purpose behind GPG School is to provide a certificate system and a basic learning system for people to be able to send encrypted email. Because right now, there's really no good way to send encrypted email right now. You have to go through a lot of reading or this kind of stuff. You have to work with other people. So this is an entire system which is going to be based around like 10 steps. Like retrieving the key, do this, and at the end you get a certificate, which you get sent to you through PGP connected email. It's just something to make it easier so people have a way to actually send the email without actually having to interfere with other people in a low stress environment kind of thing. Kind of like Hurricane Electric does IPv6, which is actually cool. So if you look at the GPG School stuff, your connection to this site is not private. There's a whole lot of stuff. Certificate authority is invalid. You can view it, but it is actually going across SSL right now.
Yeah, that error is a little bit of a misnomer, isn't it? Your connection is private. It's just not trusted.
Yeah. But anyone else you can connect to my gpgschool.com, do this error, you can connect to anything else and do this error. But once you say advanced, accepted certificate is part of your key, stuff like that. So it is theoretically that way, but you've got to take into account what's the average user going to see when they see this. They're either going to just click OK or they're going to freak out. And unfortunately, a lot of times they freak out.
There's when I looked at it, you had to do extra clicking to actually get through to it, because I got that one with the "Get Me Out of Here" button.
Yeah, there's an ISP in France called Free. They have like 10 million users. Right now, they have their home routers are set up using. They're starting to use Let's Encrypt on protecting those to expose themselves. Because right now, if you think about it, if you're a home router company, what do? You don't want to buy an SSL certificate for everybody because that's going to be a hassle. You're going to renew them, all this kind of stuff every year. You can share one private certificate across all of them, and that's horrible as well because you just said any router can impersonate any other router. You can just do straight HTTP, which is what they're doing now because they didn't have much choice. And the other option is you can look at moving to something like Let's Encrypt, which is where they're going to. And they've got like 30,000 people who have already migrated to that. And they're going to have a lot more people migrate to in the future.
Is it an automated process that they've developed then?
Yeah. You can do all of Let's Encrypt over the command line stuff.
And is that just so people have encrypted access to like the admin interface on their routers?
Yeah.
Is that what they're doing? Okay. Internally or from outside or both?
Outside.
From outside.
Yeah. So Let's Encrypt. There's a couple different ways you can install it. I did when I get the Git repo. If you look at some of the distros nowadays, Ubuntu 16.04, Fedora 24, Debian 9, all these are going to have that as part of their repositories of available software. So it'll be as simple as doing that.
How long's Let's Encrypt been around?
They've been around for a couple years actually. They went to their public beta in December 2015. They're past 1 million certificates already and well on their way to
So not so long, just 4 months ago.
Yeah. So if you go out and grab the regular version, it's called Let's Encrypt. You've got the Git version, it's Let's Encrypt Auto. So let's go ahead and run that. First thing it does, of course, goes out and checks the new version. So I didn't give it any command line parameters, so it's going to say no names defined in configuration file. You should specify server names, config file, So yes.
So you need Chris's library as part of the dependency chain.
You do for this version, yes. You need the dialog stuff.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So let's put in www.gpgschool.com. And let's put in www.gpg. Let's just put that one in just again, so want the demo to go well. So it's always the case. You want the demo to
And
go
it wants
well.
fully qualified domain name, not just domain name, like gpgschool.com.
No, it does not accept wildcards at this time.
Okay.
So yeah, I'll actually show that too. So what I'm doing right now is this actually is smart enough to know about Apache. So email address to be used for urgent notice and lost key recovery. Terms of service, we always agree.
Richard Stallman now owns your soul.
Okay, so now there's an option to choose. So HTTPS, HTTPS, and HTTPS access. You can allow the port 80 to exist with the 443, or you can say secure, which will actually modify your settings. So it will actually redirect your port 80 to 443. So we're going to do that one because that's.
And you said it understands Apache. It figured out from the domain name you put in there that that's
Yeah.
part of Apache. Okay.
What it does actually is very cool when it works. We'll talk about that after we get this running. What it actually does is it runs this program. It puts this little turd file out in your www root, which Boulder picks up to validate that you actually own the domain. So it's actually a really cool way.
So it's going to read the Apache config, know where the document root is, put the file in. Okay.
You can run this with other browsers as well. You can run this with Nginx. There's support, but it's early on. You can also do what is called just a certificate request, which will just create the certificate structure for you. And then you're on your own from that standpoint forward. But there's also an option which, what was the option? Standalone actually is the option. It will actually fire up a small web server for a couple seconds while it does this actual check. So if you don't actually want to run one, that's actually kind of cool. So congratulations, we have now done it successfully.
Okay, hold on.
Yes.
No.
The terminal you did this on, you're SSH'd into the gpgschool.com
Yep.
server. All right, I'm sorry, that's the part I missed. I was waiting for it to ask you for like authentication or something.
Oh, no.
The server. You're actually logged into the box where the server is running, so
Yes.
that's how it knew.
So now when we click on refresh,
It takes me a while. I'm a little slow.
Does it automatically help your?
How many beers do you have?
That's exactly right. No, it bounced your server then to enable the.
It's gonna refresh.
whoa! So now,
So it helped the server process.
yep,
and
it
all
doesn't
that.
reload. Because what it did now, if I go to just HTTP,
That's good. That's good for the moment. That I'm sure what that's on.
Well,
It's cached.
take out the
Right, yeah.
certificate part.
Do control.
When I went there at first without the certificate.
yeah,
there you go.
it did refresh to that, yeah. Okay, so it was cached. Whew.
So I did the redirect. So I assume it puts a .htaccess file somewhere, or does it modify your?
It modifies the actual set. It actually modifies the site enabled. You can tell it not to as well. But for
If
this,
it works, great. If it doesn't,
yeah, if it
wow.
does, it backs up everything as well. It creates the files. Let's actually.
So don't have half-worked version config.
Make sure your config works before you try it. That's pretty sweet, though.
But you can. So we go to that's the encrypt. Let's take a look. There's the key. It has all the information on it.
I'm gonna slide it up a little higher.
Oh, yeah.
And there you go.
The hard way is slide it up a bit. So what it does is it actually creates, there's 4 files. It's a lot run form, obviously. But the priv key PEM is the private key for the cert. Don't share that with anybody because that's the key. The cert PEM, don't even look, is the web server cert. There's chain PEM, which is the list of intermediate certs, and there's a full chains PEM, which is the cert in the chain. So what we've done now is we've got this taken care of, and it's totally free. If we go to actually take a look at the settings now, the information now, details, it'll show a valid certificate.
For 1 year, right?
No, 90 days.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. 90 days. I forgot.
90 days. But it's issued by Let's Encrypt Authority X3.
Can you change that?
No, that is not by design. Approximately 30% of the web has 90-day certificates by default. The reason why they're doing 90 days is because that way, if it does get corrupted, if something does happen to it, it's not as bad. But you just have to have, but how?
In other words, the TTL of.
Yeah. So here's an example.
Does it also create a cron job to recreate that?
They're working on that. They actually have examples on
Nice.
the Let's Encrypt website.
All right, fair enough.
So, but you can only renew it. There's also a restriction. You have to wait 60 days to renew it. So it's that 30-day window. It will send you emails and all that kind of stuff if you ask it to. But the way we did this right now, we set this up for www.gpgschool.com. So if I just go to gpgschool.com, that's back to not being a secure connection because it does not. The certificate does not understand that. What I could do
Because you
now,
just use the domain.
yeah. What I could do now is I could go back.
Excuse me. Limit 5 per 7
Yes,
days.
we talked about this as well. Crap, I got domains.
You don't want the www.
I want both.
Gotta
not- I
period,
want getting rid of the one.
period.
Dot or com.
Oh,
Or not.
Does it do SAN certificates?
there's what?
Is it like where you can have multiple domains?
Server alternative name.
Yeah.
I don't know, to be honest. So, what it sees right now is it sees that I've already got a certificate for part of this. Now it'll ask me if I want to also add the new other name to as well, gpgschool.com. So do you want to expand or replace the existing certificate with the new certificate? The answer is yes.
And that should be what that is. If you get to put in www and nothing and mail or whatever, that should be the SAN.
So if he's got 3 different ones on there?
No, it all can be in one.
Certificate does all 3.
You can set them up however you want to. I mean, it's still you can control it. You can create the you can have it running a different course, or you can do redirects and stuff like that to actually expose different certificates.
Can you show us the config when you're done with this to see how it indicates both the www and just the domain?
Well, most allows do those two. And a lot of them.
But anything more than that?
Yeah, like-
It's churning in the background.
Yes.
Not saying select again.
Okay, so if I wanted to do additional aliases, if I wanted foo.gpgschool.com, I just run Let's Encrypt again, do the same thing, just add it to my Apache config, and do as many as I want. Did you set them for wildcard, right?
There's a limit. Well, you normally request them all in the same certificate request. There is a limit. Let me.
Oh, just like how you chain them all together is how you would normally put all of them
Oh, I
together.
You can do all this in the command line. You don't actually need to use the
Okay.
The limitations on this are domains per certificate is 100. The certs per domain is 5 certs a domain a week. The register per IP is 500 every 3 hours.
5 certs per domain.
Per week. If you do renewals and stuff like that, if you keep doing the same one over and over again, it's going to say, hey, you can't do this. Because if not, people can just keep going at it. And let's see what else the restriction was. So yeah, but there's no actual limitation on the number of certs you can actually have in there besides the 500 per cert. So you 100 per cert, so you can put more in there if you want to. Yeah. So now if we go to GPG school again.
Cool.
Yes. It actually isn't too bad. So.
You were saying you can't re-subscribe it.
You have to wait
after
30
days.
Well, you can do it you can do it multiple times during the week, but you can't go past the 5. If you want to renew the current one you have, you should wait the 60 days. But there's nothing really. I mean, you could renew it every day you wanted to. Well, every other day, so you don't probably get some limitation. But
Every business thing.
Okay, so there's the config created.
Yep.
There's the certs. Oh, and there's server alias. That's the part. It just does server alias.
Yeah, this one it did. But one other thing about this is it puts all the stuff in there as symlinks. So to actually renew it, all you have to do is run Let's Encrypt again. It'll renew with the same information. You say not to actually do anything like that kind of stuff. But it's actually pretty cool. I mean, just from the standpoint of how well it works. But that's a quick demo of how it works. I've got it set up on a couple systems right now running for another group I'm dealing with. One thing about this is these are domain, regular domain name validations. All validations that you actually own the domain name. It doesn't do like, if you ever go to PayPal, it's got that green logo, which is the extended validation. There's 3 types of validation. There's domain name validation, there's organizational validation, and there's extended validation. Extended validation is, well, some people would call it a scam. I wouldn't go that far. But it is definitely a moneymaker.
It's a revenue opportunity.
Yes. What that does is they charge a lot more money, and you have to go through a lot more hoops. You have to provide
something.
Yeah. Yes. But there's a lot of stuff. It's not just VeriSign that offers that. They've got a whole deal with.
They're the granddaddy.
They make a lot of money.
New revenue opportunities around the domain.
Yeah. And some people look for the green stuff. A lot of people have no idea what it means. But organizational validation is just one step below that. You have to validate who you are in that organization, stuff like that. But the way that this works is pretty slick. Because what it does right now, it just puts a little file in the web root, calls it off, validates you own the thing. Which, phenomenal. I thought that was just very cool web work.
Can we see that file?
What?
Is it smart enough to understand?
You can if you get it quick enough.
Oh, it goes away.
I think the last, when I bought regular certs from VeriSign or DigiCert or whoever I bought them from, they had something you had to put in the root anyway. It's just that this automates the whole thing. So,
is it smart enough to understand like MVC applications that would redirect any request to a file in the root directory like WordPress or Joomla or any of those?
WordPress is actually using it, automatic.
Yeah.
They converted 600,000 users to using it.
But I thought if you you can't just drop the file on a WordPress home dir because all requests are routed through index.php.
Yeah.
So I wonder how that works.
I know it does.
Yeah, fair enough.
Because that and the also works with the DreamHost type stuff as well at higher levels.
We may modify HT access temporarily.
Yeah, maybe to add an exclusion for that one file.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Or it could always, I don't know, that's something actually it's probably a worthwhile question.
So
is my WordPress broken if I can actually put a file in my WordPress root?
And it works. Again, admittedly, it's been a while since I've set this up, but I know the redirect rules used to by default redirect every request through index.php, whether you wanted it to or not, because you were assuming that everything you're hosting was WordPress page. That's the same like KPHP. Every other Erlink used to run all those Erlinks.
CodeIgniter.
CodeIgniter was the same way. All those PHP frameworks assume that you're running everything through their processor, right? So they redirect everything. Maybe, unless the file exists, maybe that's the exception.
Unless it's a folder with its own file in it, and then it really wouldn't make any difference.
Well,
I had one go down the other day, and I just tailed errors and dumped errors in the root. So if the guy says that his site doesn't work, he doesn't call me thinking his SQL is down, and he can go figure
He
out.
can read the
He can read the
himself.
errors, and the last
Nice.
10 errors are in there, and he can say, well, oh, I did something I shouldn't have.
Interesting. Keep in mind, this is all still in beta as well, so.
So is Let's Encrypt, is it a company, is it a project, is it a
It is a
random hobo living in
project
your
that is
basement
supported
somewhere?
by EFF, Mozilla. Well, actually, let's go to the sponsors page.
Yeah, who are the people behind it?
Sponsors. Current sponsors. Akamai, Mozilla, Cisco, Chrome, OVH, EFF, Identitrust, which Identitrust is very important because they're actually the one who has the cross certificate that actually is why it's accepted by all the browsers.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
They're the actual
They
Yes.
sign,
trusted
so-
authority. Oh,
Yeah. Well, they signed a certificate for Let's Encrypt, and that
Let's
Right.
was a
sign.
change.
Right.
Because you can sub down all the way.
and the browser's already trusted identity.
Yeah. Facebook, Shopify,
Yeah,
LA, Automatic, which that's actually the guys who did the WordPress conversion.
Okay, so these are folks that have
No
given money.
security, that's a
apparently.
good. Yeah.
Is it like a 403B
It's
or
pretty long.
what is it?
501c.
501c3?
Yeah. But it's still coming along. But it's actually a really cool because they are gonna. It's all gonna be open standards. It doesn't need. You don't actually need to use their software. You have to GitHub and pull it down right now and fork it and create your own. But then you can also go through the process trying to get your certificate authority accepted by various web browsers. And that's going to be the whole life. It's interesting. That's what really sets us apart. The fact that that's chain of authorities in there.
What if I'm running IIS on my Microsoft? What's the cloud server? Azure on my Azure cloud instance. So this will
You can request a certificate. It's Python, so you should be able to.
Well,
Right now,
that's
it's designed for.
It won't be
it's-
automatic, right? So
It's so it's designed for Linux-based systems, but it can be supported. You can run the it is core in Python. You should be able to run it off there and do the cert-only type of option, which then you have to modify the config files and that stuff for.
So we'll have our new Windows Bash environment. So
Actually,
So there you go.
that will have it. But I don't know how well that's going to work.
It won't take
Read the
IIS.
IIS config.
No, but you'll be able to request a
Yeah.
certificate from that. You'll be able to do an app.
Microsoft's done a lot to have command line tools for a bunch of their server stuff.
PowerShell is impressive.
Yeah.
But there's actually a site called gethttpsforfree.com, which uses Let's Encrypt. And what that does, you actually put your public key in there and all the information, the certificate signing request, and it uses Let's Encrypt to actually do it. So you can actually use that with IIS or any other one.
software.
Yeah.
Who issued their certificate?
They're using Let's Encrypt. Oh, but who's actually, I've got to imagine they're using
Sweethearts.
Let's Encrypt Authority Grade 3.
Okay. I just wanted to see.
It'd be self-signed.
How meta is this?
I'm
Go to-
so meta.
Go to
even
where it
this
says
sentence.
present, do the down arrow.
Or no. I'm
And
so
then
meta.
you
Even
can
this
say
acronym.
present from.
So that's just a quick demo of it. It works pretty well. I'm using it right now for a group that I've been with. Some of their stuff we just are proxying through to talk.js.
So John, you gonna switch all the AIM sites to Let's Encrypt?
A lot of my certificates are through a couple years, so.
Well, the Nebraska cert one's going to flip to it, but we've got some subdomains and stuff on there. I want to make sure we have all that in place before we
And
do
then
it.
you got to redo it every 60 days.
90 days.
Every 90 days.
But it's as simple as, but it's all set up through symbolic links. All you have to do is rerun the Let's Encrypt script again. You don't actually have to go out and modify your SSL.
You could automate it.
So you can crown the Let's Encrypt.
It doesn't
Let's
require-
Encrypt if you want.
Yeah, that's what
It
it
doesn't
is.
require human interaction necessarily.
Yeah.
Big problem.
And if it fails, it will send you an email through the Boulder
Right.
server, stuff like that. Some of the cool things about it. This thing is sorted by all the major browsers. I know I've said that a couple times, but that is huge.
Thanks to Identitrust.
Yes. Let's Encrypt is going to be available in quite a few different systems. It's moved to 1604, Debian testing, Fedora 24. It has pretty good support for Apache. It's been able to figure out a couple things that I didn't think it would directly off it. Experimental support for Nginx seems to be coming along. I don't really run Nginx, run Nginx a whole lot. There's another server out there, another HTTP server out there called Caddy.
AOLs.
AOL server, don't badmouth that.
Dude, I was not.
It's
I
the
just
TIG
wondered if that was
integration was
still a
amazing.
thing.
It still is. They'll
That
never
was
let
the
go.
bomb a while.
Yeah, they'll never let go of that. The way it did the in-process working stuff off, it was impressive. It could handle loads.
Way before Apache did multi-thread.
Yeah. But the Caddy web server has LE built right into it, which is designed to be an easy-to-use web server. It's one of the ones I came across reference to. But works on things. It can be used to generate a simple certificate, or it can be used to install a certificate and update the web server settings. Very nice. Plug-in architecture. You can add anything you want to it. You can fork it off. You can have it. If you wanted to, you could actually Ansible the thing, or however you want to have it do it. Write recipes for it. Anything you want to do, because it can all be done through command line and stuff like that.
What does plugin architecture mean? What kind of plugins would you have to?
Whatever you want to. I mean, different web servers.
Different web server support. Okay.
Yeah. Different parameters.
Certificates for like email servers and things like that. Maybe.
Right now, it's all based around SSL search. So if you do the
Standalone.
not S-MIME, but the other version, you can do that stuff.
Yeah, there's a T.
Yeah, TLS stuff.
TLS.
Yeah. But it's if you use DreamHost, it's just a box on the cPanel, and this can be popping up in more places in the future.
That's cool.
That's actually very cool, because you can actually just, it handles the renewals, all that kind of stuff transparently, all behind the scene for you. It's very nice. It's got big sponsors, so it's probably not going to go out of business anytime soon. Emails for you for updates, renewals. It does have a procedure. It's less encrypt -- revoke than the pen. It can actually revoke certificate if it does get compromised and stuff like
Is that
that.
free? They can change it.
It's all free. So it's very nice in that respect. Some not so cool things about Let's Encrypt. The certificates are SHA-256. RSA key is 2048 by default. You can change it to 4096. So no support for SHA-1. That's all right, because if you're using SHA-1, once again, you're part of the problem. You got to stop. It can have trouble with older systems, Windows XP, some embedded systems. There's one I didn't put on here, but I should have mentioned. Java. It doesn't like Java. Java don't like it because they don't accept that as a C8 certificate.
They're not a sponsor.
There's a process of trying to get them to add it in there right now, but if you're actually using it,
The JRE doesn't buy.
it doesn't like it. It gives you still warnings and all that. But if, of course, you're running Java on your client side, you've got bigger problems. So let's just accept that. Certificates are good for 90 days. The renewals, that could be an issue. It's still in beta. That's got to be mentioned because things can still change between now and then. Because example being, they're going to move the Let's Encrypt client software to another location here just down the road, but they haven't announced. So it's a good idea to be a part of the blog and be aware of what some of their stuff is.
Why does that mean trouble with older systems? Why would it care what we throw in XP or just?
Because SHA-256 is not understood by old versions, IE.
Oh, gotcha. Okay, so from a
So
recipient,
boom, yeah.
So Windows.
And
So
XP
like if you were
probably
still
doesn't
using
have
something like
interest.
Windows Update.
Windows XP is against that. Well, Windows Update would go against their side, so it'd be fine.
Right.
But if you're hitting,
certs have that.
if I hit GPG school, it's not going to be able to actually establish a connection because it's not going to be able to negotiate its way down. Because it will not negotiate down to SHA-1 like a lot of stuff will. It says this is
The graceful fallback.
Yeah, the graceful fallback is off the cliff. That's the way. So more not so cool things about it. Support for the Nginx and the roster in development. No wildcard support, which can be kind of a pain in the ass.
Is that coming or is that a?
There's
Why
a
not?
whole bunch of back and forth on that.
They said they were going to when they first, like when they were talking about it, it was like one of their big things. It was like,
Yeah.
cool, we got a wildcard certificate.
But there's
Is
a
that substantially different from just regular top-level domain or FQDN support? Wildcard? I don't know.
they just don't. I don't know. A lot of people, it's just a hassle to do it because you got to figure out all the ones you want to support. That's what it comes down to. But I mean, it's just not going to be in there for the time being.
Well, I imagine the reason they don't have wildcard support is because it'd be pretty easy to just do so-and-so/scampage.gbgschool.com.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's part of it. It also comes down to, there's a thing we can talk about here in a little question in a minute too. Oh yeah, this one's a killer, by the way. No wildcard support, so yeah, I can't internet start.gbgschool. This one bit me in the ass severely hard because it gives you a wonderful error message. Can't generate for certain web hosts such as Linode, DigitalOcean, AWS, etc. You can use these hosts, but you have to point the domain to the server. Example being, GPG School runs on DigitalOcean. Works fine because I go to GPG School. But if I try to do the DigitalOcean thing, BI, New York, it's going to go, hey, that's a prohibited domain, which you'll sit there and go like, well, hell, I must have typed that wrong. Let me do that 8 or 9 dozen more times until I stare at it. And then you'll actually go, hey, I should probably cut and paste that into Google and type Let's Encrypt to figure out what the actual error means. And then you'll get a very, very terse answer that will give you some vague clue about it. But you'll get over that because it's. So that's one that really was not. I was not happy with that part of the error message thing on it right now. Because it says prohibited by policy. It's like, well, just can't say don't use this domain, dumbass. That's what I'm looking for.
I get AWS.
Yeah.
I get why AWS, because they have a pretty messed up web server config, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Well, no, because today I own li 2020.linode.com.
Yeah.
Tomorrow you can own it. He can own it. He can own it. He can own it. Because they reuse those left and right when anybody blows one away.
All right, so you can't do it for the native.
That's fine for AWS. But yeah, but Linode, I don't understand that one.
But if I've
Because
got
Linode, if I let Linode go, you pick it up. You can do it yourself. It just is a policy decision.
But if I've got foo.com hosted on Linode,
Yeah, that's fine. That's how business is
Oh.
working out. It
That's-
works good.
Linode.com is fine. It's
Yeah.
Linode.com.
Yeah.
Use Linode.com.
well, that's a pretty small subset of people.
Yeah, but
It was me. It was me. So I consider this
If you're going through all this
rigmarole.
rigmarole, you're gonna drop the $8 and buy the thing.
So there could be people who are doing development that don't have domains on
Yeah.
Linode. That
All right.
But there's also ways you can get free domain names.
it's an odd use
Yeah.
case.
But it's a use case that bit me in the butt. That's why I thought it was worthwhile mentioning, because it's not clearly stated in the
Yeah,
documentation
that's-
I've read through
that's
so
fair.
far. But we talked a little bit about the limits. So there are some limitations on those. Are right now arbitrary. They could be raised. They could be dropped. Who knows what's going to happen?
That's per domain.
Yes.
Some limits to how many.
It's by domain and IP address because there's limitations on both.
Is that just to prevent people from just like not the service or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Part of that, and also partially prevent people from trying to figure out how it works by just hitting it over and over. If you do want to do a test domain, you can do one. There's an option called --test server only, which will generate you a certificate, but it won't actually be signed. It'll be a self-signed certificate. It'll run through the process of that, so you can figure out what command line options you're typing wrong, and it'll
It's
actually
like a dry run, essentially.
Yeah. Well, it'll do a dry run, but it'll actually install a certificate if you ask it.
Okay. Well, I mean, that's
Just
good.
self-signed.
That's where you can see what
Yeah.
it's changing in the configs and get an
Yeah.
understanding. And
So it comes down to being pretty not too bad in that standpoint.
Figure out this conversion.
Right. I'll bring it up.
So there's some other options to Let's Encrypt.
break it myself. I don't need any help.
CACert.org. It's another certificate of authority. It's not supported by all browsers, like, for example, Google Chrome. So, once you exclude that 70%, you just you got all this left.
Yeah.
Microsoft Edge.
It has instructions for setup, which can be pretty helpful. It's run by donations, stuff like that. It's not a bad little group. But the problem is they don't have the top-level approval of all the other certificate authorities. So it's going to put them out of business, unfortunately. Startcom. They offer free Type 1 certificates. Startcom has add-on options, commercial options as well. This is also not accepted automatically by all browsers. But this one actually is used by the OLUG mailing list website, which I know for a fact is not accepted by a lot of web browsers I use because I always get asked that question. Do you want to accept this?
Can you go to it in Chrome for me?
Wait a minute.
List.olug.org.
Startcom certificate, you're not able to.
Lists.olug.org.
Let's go to OLUG. Which browser do you use?
All of them?
Mail list.
Well, I mean, like,
WGet.
Connection is not private.
so, wait.
Yeah. Guess why?
Why?
Oh, it's expired now.
I mean, if it wasn't expired, it would work.
Get Brian on the phone.
Oops. When did this one expire?
Yeah.
April 12th.
Last year.
2015. What?
Is this my job?
You couldn't even do that if you wanted to, John. You don't even have access to that.
It's really not his job.
Yeah, it's clearly not Brian.
Yes.
Brian, are you listening? Update the damn SSL.
I might be able to.
All right. But there's some ones that are supported somewhere. Startcom, I've gotten the error message in the past on the OLUG list, so with some browsers, I'm not sure.
You ever just hit it when it expired?
Yeah, last year I hit it. So.
Yeah. I haven't had any problems. I use it a lot and I haven't had any problems with it.
All right. So that's pretty much how Let's Encrypt works. So that covers the basics of it. It's really not that tough. It really, You can run your own certificates or you want to. It's not that tough. You just got to go OpenSSL-CA, put in the right information, all that kind of stuff. The problem is you have to keep track of it. You have to try and get other people to accept their certificates and all that kind of stuff. And it just comes back to the whole web of trust type thing. And that's when these guys have figured out. And they've got it pretty well figured out. The ACME protocol is pretty well defined. It's all open. You can go out to GitHub, expect it all if you want to. It's actually going to be pretty cool the way it works out. So that's the Let's Encrypt part. Anybody got a question about Let's Encrypt? We talk about HTTPS everywhere for a couple slides.
What's the rationale behind the company that actually did the trusted part? What was it called?
Identitrust?
Identitrust.
That's their
Why are
country
they
name.
Why are
I
they
don't
doing
know.
this?
Because they want to be good citizens of the internet.
Bullshit. No company wants that.
I think they want
good PR.
I think that's a good
Is
part.
that all it is? Okay. What's their product?
Self-certs?
No, they're also
They probably do the extended search.
They do the extended
Oh, okay. So they
They have
so
their own
ready
tools
to
and all that.
upgrade for big leagues.
So yeah, if you're going to take money, you probably want an extended search rather than just a domain.
Because that's right. I'd never heard of them before tonight, so clearly it works.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's go out to like percent.
Identity trust. I didn't trust that.
Part of HID Global, the HIDI, as they like to call it. Yep. We put the trust and identity. So get your certificates, trust ID SSL server, all sorts of stuff.
See, they do cards too.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Trust is their name and their game.
Selling your information.
Let me see what I got else for those.
You're not gonna see that.
Sorry. So domain extended information.
How about Start SSL? Are they still a thing?
Yeah.
Start
Yeah,
SSL.
No.
Okay.
They'll be out. I just last week's Security Now said that they had some huge hole in their thing.
Rather than fixing it, they're just
They had
gonna
a
roll.
serious
I just
problem
wondered-
with their certificate.
They're just gonna fold rather than try to fix it.
Okay.
I think.
I wondered if
it
they
didn't
still
sound
offer
good.
a cert that was free that was accepted by most major browsers. Because years ago that was like the only one you
Yeah.
could get.
Well,
A
that's what
free
Start
cert.
was.
And that's what StarCom is now, right?
Yeah.
Start SSL was one that I used.
Start SSL, I don't remember exactly what it was, but I think you could get anybody's certificate. Oh. You apply for a certificate, you have to send it to Webmaster, Hostmaster, or
Postmaster.
Postmaster, one of those three. It's
Ooh,
a
that's
form.
nice to see.
It's
DuckDuckGo
a
four
form.
entries.
You can go in and you can add a different
Hack.
parameter in the form to send it to AdamH@google.com.
That's a feature.
That's a feature. So you could go get anybody's cert.
You have to be authenticated to use it though.
Didn't sound like it. It
Yeah,
sounded
that
like
was
it
the
was a pretty
problem.
nasty man.
Okay, there's right there. Most Start SSL certs will stay not mine.
Oh, that's 5 years ago. So yeah, but no, it's okay. Keep in mind, Let's Encrypt is still evolving. They're going to be doing stuff. They're going to be hacked sooner or later as well. So that's one of the benefits of having a 90-day thing.
So,
That's all good.
yeah, we'd all be more secure if we change our passwords every freaking day too.
Or
We're
ever.
not going to do it.
Let me see what else they got. But there's also some other options they're working on in terms of the challenges. On this, there's you can put some stuff in the DNS token, stuff like that. To do some that stuff's not currently being supported, but they're going to have more than just actually you end up with some of the web root and stuff like that. You're actually proving your own domain, but yeah.
Or
So they got some
verification.
for the challenge thing, yeah. So there's some stuff coming down that's kind of cool. So HTTPS everywhere. It's a browser extension for Google Chrome, Mozilla, and Opera that tries to force you to connect via HTTPS to websites. It tries to force all connections to stay SSL as much as possible. So that's actually a really good thing. Because a lot of websites will put you in SSL and sometimes they'll drop back from SSL if there's a misconfiguration, that kind of stuff. This tries to stay as much as possible. Some versions support SSL Observatory as well, which is a tool designed to prevent man-in-the-middle attacks. It starts figuring out whether or not somebody's listening in on your company's stuff, which can be kind of cool. You start seeing that and give you a little bit of information. It does that by comparing to no certificates back in the hub type situation. It's not too bad stuff. It works for most sites. It can cause some sites to have problems. There used to be problems with Hulu in it. It would have problems figuring out the ads because they want to send you ads without being SSL, and it would actually bop you out back and forth. Which for a while it was great because it would actually just not show you any ads.
This is
And then after a
like
while,
30 seconds
yeah,
of
30 seconds of relaxing. It's just,
for a moment of that.
Yeah. So, but then they figured that out because they're going to figure that out. So it uses some code from NoScript's HTTP strict transport security implementation. So it's a nice little plugin. It's by EFF. It's actually well known. It's actually, you can get the code at, you can inspect it, you can look at it, you can see everything it does. You can build it yourself if you want to and go from there.
I think I've pretty much used it since the day it was with beta.
I've been using that in Privacy Badger. I like both those.
Yeah.
Together really work really well.
And you block origin.
Privacy Badger and NoScript.
The problem with NoScript is I just kind of given up on it just because I got tired of it just bitching. I came down to. And Privacy Badger still gets enough grief, but it's like, if you really want to be secure on the web, you're going to fire up Dillo and just get every page statically and do it that way. No one's going to do that. That's all I'm sorry. Links is the way. Links. So it's a pretty straightforward thing. You just install it. It works pretty well. It works for almost everything it does. It just dovetails nicely with the other stuff. One thing to keep in mind is you are bopping information back and forth to EFF every now and then just to say, hey, is there a more secure page for this and that kind of stuff, which is part of the price you pay. Because there have been simple sites. There was a real simple plugin called SSL or nothing. And all it did was it just put HTTPS at the front of your browser thing. And if it didn't work, you were just done. But it worked reasonably well what it did. So, but HTTPS Everywhere is a really great plugin. If you're not using that in Privacy Badger, you should start using both those and start getting some statistics and stuff like that on it. So, summary: an encrypted web is a safer web. Let's Encrypt is going to be a big part of this. When you start thinking of the Internet of Things, you start thinking about all this type of stuff. The ability to do this kind of stuff with everything that's got little web servers on, all that kind of stuff securely is going to be huge.
IoT.
It's coming. There have been some studies that suggest building functionality HTTPS Everywhere into the Android web browser will be a really good idea. They haven't done it yet, but it's one of the things that's going to happen because it makes a lot of sense.
Google's also favoring HTTPS sites in search results.
Yeah.
So that wouldn't be too far.
Yeah. So it's heading that way. There's also a great thing about that is it also provides a barrier to people who have older versions of the browser. Because the example being, if you have like some of the old versions of the Google Chrome browser, the Google web browser that was built into the old versions of Android, like 1 something odd, it will not really like. Yeah. It was just the web view. Yeah. It's not going to necessarily like your Let's Encrypt stuff either, because then it also likes SHA-1 a whole lot.
Good.
Yeah. So the barriers to entry aren't that high. It doesn't cost that much. Just a bit of your time, that kind of stuff. And the fact that you can blow up your whole website and never get it back again. Other than that, it's a pretty minor thing. But it is very cool the way it works. Like I say, it's because I've been through the whole process with OpenSSL, all that stuff over time. And it's not that tough. It's just keeping track of doing all that stuff is a pain. So this is going to be very nice to see that. So yes.
So this is going to be a question. Maybe you should finish your thought before I ask the question.
I only got one more thing. Give it a shot. The worst you can need to do is try it again. Yes?
Okay. So it's only going to modify the configuration based upon the certificate. It's not going to say these are the hash algorithms that you need to use for SSL, or change it to say don't accept 2 or 3, stuff like that.
No, that's generated in the certificate. The certificate itself only has those options.
Okay. So if you have those configuration if you haven't done best practices for your Apache config, are you going to have conflicts where it's like you broke the site because it's only restricted to algorithms
if you
that
only
it's
have a
not?
SHA-256 certificate,
Right.
and you're trying to do, it will probably fail because I don't think it's going to drop cleanly out of that.
That's what I thought.
Yeah. But that depends also partially upon which version of the browser you have on that stuff. I mean, some will just be very free.
I'm just trying to think of paths that might break on the server side when it's implementing, and is it generating a log file when it's doing the work?
Yeah, I believe so.
And is the installer smart enough to know that if there's a cert on the enabled on the web server already,
Yes.
it'll replace it?
Yeah, it did, because we replaced the one that was already currently existing when we added the other option.
That was a currently existing Let's Encrypt cert. What if I have like a VeriSign or a StartComp cert on there? Will it be okay with, well, upgrade that for me seamlessly?
To me, it looked like it only modified the section dealing with that website, So it's probably going to be that virtual host, and not like if you have a main config.
Well, right, but what
That
if I
can
already
break
had
it. That
what
can
if I
break it
already
there
started
too.
my virtual host, right?
Yeah.
I mean, this is just the
Yeah.
installer. I mean,
Yeah, no.
it ends up being me. I got to be able to configure it, right?
Yeah, you gotta know what you're doing. Some stuff. For the most part, if I was actually running this beyond just, if I wasn't doing a greenfield implementation, I would generate the certificate request and install it by hand yourself. That's how I would do. That's how you do it. I mean, just do the symbolic links back over to it.
Because you got your Apache configs and SV.
Was that actually last night?
That's true. We toyed around with that for a while.
It's all local time.
So the Apache configs and version control.
Yeah.
And the Apache config was too late.
Yeah, actually, it was nice. Certificate signer request. Information went across. Little JSON, a little HTTP, a little nonce. I think it's all good.
Nice. Actually says request packages from.
Yeah.
You know, every time somebody mentions a log file, first thing pops into my head is the 500 gigabyte error log file that I had on my computer.
You can probably just tail the last 50 or something. I like that. Donate to me. Please do. I'm a member.
Same here. So creating backup of this is on enhanced redirect was already set. So it's not bad. It works pretty well. But keep in mind if you don't like the way it works, obviously you can write your own. Because I mean, all you really need to do, almost any situation where you have a certificate from VeriSign or anything like that, you're just going to have a pen file and stuff like those couple references. All you do is modify those.
Anyway, right?
Yeah.
True.
So it's not too bad. But it works pretty well. I guess I've been pleasantly surprised once I got past my whole try and register Linode instance thing on it, which was a pain in the butt.
So you said you're deploying it for a couple of projects. Do they have certs already and you're replacing them, or you're adding?
These are greenfield situations. One's for a massively multi-line player game called that's Coma Universe. It's based on an old PBM game we're modifying and bringing it to the future and stuff like that. So that's actually going to be pretty cool and come down a little further. But that's one. The other one I'm going to be doing is for GPG schools. So I've got a lot of work to do on that. So. Well, that's my presentation. Anybody got any questions?
Very cool.
Very good.
Awesome.
Good job, Aaron.
Who's next month?
I don't know. Don't have that off the top of my head. Like I said, I haven't been at work and I've been away from a computer for like 4 or 5 days, so not exactly sure.
So the OLUG spreadsheet will have it.
Yes. So I'm going to end the broadcast portion. Thank you for watching.